For the,
Mark, can you hear us?
oh, okay.
We can't hear Mark. Mark, can you hear us now? Hold on.
Ask him if he's on mute.
No, I think it's just a. Go up again. Try the first one. On the room, the very top. No, the microphone. Then go back. Put that on the top. Mark?
What about lower right for the volume? I always do.
All right, try again, Mark. Nope.
Yeah, I mean,
So make sure systems.
do we ask him if he can hear us?
He can hear us,
Okay, well,
but we have to have him, you have to be able to hear him as well.
yes. Well, he could put something in a chat, couldn't he?
I'm gonna leave that to your solicitor. You don't need him for a
Yeah.
quorum.
So if he had a question, he could put it in the chat.
This is us. This is the from us.
Where's the input from him? This is the input coming from him, right?
No, that's from us.
No,
I mean,
now,
No, he can't hear us.
yes, I can.
You hear us, right, Mark? Yep.
Yes,
all right, well,
okay.
This is what happened the other day. You gotta get.
can you ask Mark if he can put something in a chat if he has a question?
Yeah, Mark, if you have a question, I'm gonna have to have you put it in the chat while we're working.
I think
Okay.
what we need to do is probably treat him like a member of the public at this point, right? I mean, you have a quorum here. You can't hear him vote unless he's gonna start doing hand signals or something like that. So
Okay.
I think what the Authorities Act or what the Sunshine Act requires is you know, if someone's gonna participate remotely, that they're on some sort of system that can hear and be heard. So since he's not that, if he has any thing he wants to talk about. Keeping the minutes and everything, we'll treat it as though it's 4 members this evening.
All right, unless Steve, you find a means of,
I'll be working on
okay, thank you. All right, let's call.
Dial into the phone.
I could call him on my cell if you want.
No, I want him to dial into this phone so I can put it on the mic.
Okay,
I mean, worst case scenario, you could drum on a speakerphone on your phone and next to a microphone.
Okay.
To a microphone that will-
Mark. Dials, whoa. Dial,
Get out of the sun.
dial 610. 356. Zero 0200. Extension 114. I'm sorry, extension 144. You have my email address? If you will send me your phone number via email, I'll call you. Is that his number? I'm not sure which one. Work. 732, he says. You can see.
Either,
What area code do you have?
I have his cell phone.
I have two numbers.
I think I only have his cell.
It's not gonna call back.
I just was
It
not
may be
doing
the
it.
other one,
I just was.
Well,
Hey, Mark. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, Maria, do you want to just talk a minute? I want to make sure he can hear you.
Mark, can you hear me?
Okay,
Okay.
all right,
We're not
There we go.
hearing you very well, so.
all right. All right, we can go ahead and get started.
Okay. All right, now, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Municipal Authority on this November 21st, 2022. We just came back from an executive session to discuss litigation and personnel matters. I'm going to do a roll call. Tom Greco.
Yeah.
Louis Rosenthal.
Here.
Paul Montefiore. Mark Kay.
Here.
And Maria Kane here. All right, at this time, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag. of the United States of America. At this time, the board members have had a chance to review the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Okay,
A second.
Okay, we have a motion from Louis, seconded by Tom. All those in favor? Aye. All right, at this time, we'll take public comment for agenda items only. So if there's something on the agenda and you're here to comment on any of those items, any members of the public for agenda items only. Moving on then, the board has had an opportunity to review the minutes which have been circulated from the October 17, 2022 meeting.
Move to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Louis. Can I have a second? Okay, thank you, Paul. And any questions or comments on those minutes? All those in favor? Aye. All right, at this time, we'll take a treasurer's report. And Steve, will you be giving that report?
I can.
Okay,
So you had in your packet that was originally put out several of the reports that you're used to seeing. I believe if you had a chance to go back in this afternoon, we posted additional reports. Did we send them out via email as well, or just post them? They were just posted. And in that you were hopefully able to see where we were with the bond, and also our treasurer's report. If you have any questions, I'm glad to answer them. Quick nutshell, the SR2 fund in the operating has 2,887,000. The capital fund has 1,124,000. SR3 in the operating has 3,783,000, and the capital is 2,720,000. Obviously, the SR3 is the one we're probably watching the closest, because that's the one we have to make the payments out of for the bond. So we have about $2 million in our capital, and the bond payments are equal to about $2 million, 2.1 actually. So you can see we would quickly go through the bond or through the capital money in 1 year. And so we're watching that, and we're going to be presenting something related to the budget here shortly. I'll be meeting with Lou and Tom early part of December, and we'll have something for you to look at the December meeting, and then probably do something more final at the January meeting. I know there's a couple of things that that you're used to seeing that were not there. Give me time. I will try to get those for you.
I understand.
I had a couple of things I worked on over the weekend, thought I would get answers for you, and I couldn't get to tie back to the numbers from last month. So until I get that, I don't want to give you a report that I don't have confidence in.
Thank you.
We appreciate it, Steve. All right, anything else for treasurer's report at the stage? We'll move on to the engineer's report, and Dave Porter is here to provide that.
Thank you very much. First item I'd like to give a brief report on is the 314 Summit Avenue project. We have contract documents back from the contractor JMC. They are in the process of being signed by the municipal authority. Once they're signed, we'll redistribute them to the contractor, schedule our pre-con meeting. And then we'll get out there and schedule our construction stakeout and be going with the project. Should not be a very long project, maybe a month, weather permitting. But they have a window until next March to complete the work. So late today, I completed a memo with regard to the BPG Equus Ellis Preserve project in summarizing the sewage planning efforts that are underway for the benefit of the last two phases of commercial development out there. It summarizes the flow necessary, the capacity necessary to accommodate those developments, where they are in the sewage planning process, and where we have been as far as issuing permits for public sewer connections and review and approval of their grease trap sizing out there to handle the restaurant uses. There's a tentative meeting with KBX Golden next week, and there is an agenda item under the operations manager report that Steve will go into a little more detail, but I have a meeting scheduled with KBX to review their recommendations for maintenance items at the various pump stations in the township. And lastly, with regard to the public sewer reconstruction project on Westchester Pike that was previously bid, there are a couple of grant opportunities out there right now. One's H2O grant, has ARPA funding that funnels through that H2O program. With the authority's permission, we can submit an application for that. It's probably only, a $1,500 to $2,000 exercise to get that work pulled together for those grant applications. They're both due in December. One is a 50% match. And the other one, I don't recall how much. I want to say there's like a 15% match or something on the other one.
It's
15%.
So, I mean, how much are we talking about if we do qualify for the grants?
Well, recall the bid came back at over $300,000. We could potentially get $150,000, which would offset the cost of that public improvement significantly.
And I don't think we need to take any board action to allow you to go ahead and submit the application. Is that
There's
true,
usually a
or is it
resolution that has to go with it. So as
Probably
long,
at the next meeting, you think?
you know when it's due, I forgot.
Yeah,
Is it-
it's in December. I want to say it's like December 20 something, so it would be after the next authority.
Yeah, as
meeting.
long as it's after the
Yep.
next authorities meeting, we can do that.
Is it, so it will be in time for the next authority?
Yes, I believe so. Yep.
Because we're doing one from the township as well, but I think we're okay because we're two different governing bodies.
Gotcha.
And the ARPA grant or whatever it is what are the strings attached?
Usually if you get it, the only string attached is how we report. And we have to go through and do all the proper reporting back for the funding, which is the same thing you do anytime we get a grant. And then there's usually some lots of paperwork that we have to do through the process, but that's it.
Yeah, and I think the timeframe.
But no
to spend
performance
the money
obligations.
is.
We have to do what we said we're gonna. do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if they award it, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
That concludes my engineer's report for this evening.
What was the 307 French Road?
That's something coming up under Mr. Neese's
Oh,
report.
I'm sorry. All right, please forgive me. All right, Stephen Neese, Operations Manager's report.
Yes, I have a couple things I just want to quickly share with you where we are. We've gotten a list of recommended repairs. Hope you've gotten the KBX report and had a chance to look at that. A couple of them may be related to punch items, but a couple of them are potentially action items. As Dave mentioned, he's meeting KBX and going around, hoping that George and or Harry can join in as well, just to so we all know we're on the same page, make sure we get those things taken care of, and do that. I know the broken crane at Ellis has been a bit, and I think the fence is actually related to the construction, which if that's the case, I would push back and have them fix the fence. I would.
Them being.
BPG, Eccles. But we just need to go around and check all these things to make sure we're on the right page and do that. But a couple of them being older pump stations, obviously maybe some things that will be things that need to be before you to make a decision about potentially going out and having fixed.
So it was highlighted in the KBX letter and we discussed this, I believe, at our last meeting. But that Goshen Road incident with the terracotta main that was pierced by Verizon or somebody.
Yes,
It
it was Pico.
Does it make sense for us to potentially survey or at least highlight other terracotta mains that might need?
I think we would say much of our SR2 is terracotta. I think we've kind of looked briefly at that. It would be a major portion of what's in that section because it was put in at the time in which terracotta was predominant use.
Okay, so then maybe it's not a part of what KBX's scope was, but at what point do we start putting together some longer term view on very old infrastructure?
So in the budget for 2023, we had some money in there this year, but we have more money in going in next year for the purpose of actually getting in and cameraing and evaluating lines. And there was, to be honest, there was a little bit of confusion on KBX's part when we told them to start doing that. And so we can award it to KBX because KBX is a CoStarz bidder, or they've gone through the bidding process with CoStarz. And so our recommendation was to use them. They have the equipment. We're part of it. We're doing with RHM what they will, as much as they will do for us, but then the other part would be with KBX doing that. And so we would go through, we would camera, get an evaluation, be able to give you a report back on the lines that we do each year. I believe we have about $100,000 set aside for that purpose.
Okay.
It won't do a lot, but it'll get us started.
Yeah,
And we'll start building up. And the ultimate goal was to
the
be able to.
passage of time doesn't help us.
No, the ultimate goal would be probably to do the whole system every 5 years. And so that you have a clean idea of where things are. Certain areas obviously get it done more often,
Right.
where we know we have troubles. But this would be to go through and be able to really see what kind of condition our lines are in.
Thank you.
So the next thing that I have, we've gotten a complaint from the homeowner at 307 French. We have done some work on the townships. I say townships part, and that's township staff has done the digging and come back. And now we're going to, it's under quick review by George and myself. We think that there's a potential that this line that we thought was just a line that was individual lines behind some houses that went into our main. There may be a potential that part of that is ours. So we forwarded the documents actually this afternoon to Mike and to Dave for review. And hopefully we'll get a review back on those, and then we'll be able to reach out to the homeowner. The problem is there's, I believe, 3 laterals that are coming into a easement that's behind 307 that's actually blocking up and coming out of the pipe. And so the question is it ours to fix as the municipal authority, or is it the homeowners? Because they have some kind of an agreement together. It's very clear it's an easement on the plans. The question is who owns the easement, and was the lines ever dedicated to the authority?
And as a result of the blocking, what's going on?
Well, we haven't done anything yet because we don't know that we own the lines. And so this happened a couple years ago, and it was the first determination that we didn't think we owned them. But now that we found some different additional information, we may. And so we may need to take action. And if we do, then if it's determined that they're ours, then we'll send somebody out and take care of it.
In the meantime, do we have?
Well, it could be a problem. We're monitoring it. You know, I mean, obviously the neighbor, the person who's got the flow in the backyard is concerned. Part of the problem, we believe, is that one of the homeowners upstream is putting stuff into the line that shouldn't, and it's causing a blockage. And so that's what we're trying to resolve.
Well, we look forward to an update.
Yep. Just wanted you to know we're working on it. If you happen to hear about it from the neighbor or from the homeowner, that's what we're doing.
Gotcha. Okay. Unless there's anything else, Steve, I'll move on.
No, you can move on. That's it.
Consider approving the bills on check register A dated November 21, 2022, totaling $71,750.62. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second? I'll second that motion. Any questions or comments? Or all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, next, consider approving.
If-
I'm sorry.
If I can just real quick, I noticed this, the first bullet point should be pulled out and handled separately. So if you're going to handle
Okay,
this as a
gotcha.
single motion,
Yeah.
I would recommend you handle it as 2 separate motions.
Gotcha. Thank you, Steve. All right, consider approving the following payment from the bond for Act 537 public sewer project build out. For staff to issue a check to the township for $39,000.
That was
Oh,
the
that's
piece
the
that we
one.
want to pull out.
Well, that's what I was gonna do. That's
Well,
what-
I know. So if you're going to do that first, then I would say that doesn't come out of the 537 that was deposited.
Oh, so this
into
was
the operating.
misplaced underneath.
It is misplaced under there.
Okay, and where's this coming from?
So it was put into the operating account.
Okay.
And so what my understanding was, I think that there's some documentation in your packet. But basically the deposit slip for the municipal authority was used versus the deposit slip for the township. And
Gotcha,
that's what the
gotcha. All
issue
right,
is.
so we want to issue a check to the township.
But that's
Okay.
correct.
All right, so can I have a motion to issue a check to the township for $39,700.64 for a deposit made in error to the municipal authority?
So moved.
Maria, can we just specify in that motion that that one is from the operating account, so we don't have any
Yeah.
confusion
Yes.
based on how they're lined up?
Yes, and I'll amend that motion so that the check be issued from the operating account for the amount so stated. Can I have that motion again, Tom?
So moved.
All right. Do I hear a second? I'll second the motion. Any questions or comments?
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
The check was made payable to,
So it was actually, it was actually multiple checks. And so I believe in your records,
saw
it
there, like,
actually solves,
a check
I think
register.
there was probably about 5 or 6 checks.
Right.
They were actually made payable to the township. And they were a part of, they just picked up the wrong deposit slip. And that's what happened.
got it, and we caught it how?
We caught it through the bank rec.
Okay. The bank didn't pick up on different payee.
The bank did not pick up on the different payees. My guess is they, just saw it come in and they just processed it.
Got it.
Sometimes we'll get checks for the authority that are made out to the township. And we just process them.
Okay. That's it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, next, we're gonna take, the 3 items under 10.1 together. Consider approving the following payments from the bond for the Act 537 Public Sewer Project build out. $540 to Herbert Montgomery Engineers for engineering work associated with the Ashford service area. $2,308.75 to the Herbert Montgomery Engineers for engineering work associated with the Camelot service area. $7,956 to Catania and Parker LLP for legal services associated with the Camelot service area. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Louis? Second from Paul, thank you. Any questions or comments for any of these items? All those in favor?
Aye.
Was that,
It was an aye.
okay, thank you, Mark. Okay, old business. Discussion and possible action regarding the proposed sewer adjustment for 227 Charles Ellis Drive. Steve, do you want to just, maybe bring us up to date on this briefly?
Well, you had requested some information.
Right.
We had gone back and told them what you had requested.
Yep.
What we got is what's in your packet is a bill with an adjustment on it without much explanation other than the adjustment. And I don't have it right in front of me to tell you how much the adjustment was.
The adjustment was about $64,000.
Yes, something like that.
So,
And so,
and I don't mean to cut you off, but for fear of just monthly going back and forth, if we could specifically ask for some documentation that indicates how much water spilled, and I think there was an estimate thrown around of 17 million gallons. And we relied on the data provided to us by Aqua to send out bills, to build an accounts receivable. There is no information provided by either Aqua's paralegal, who sent us a to whom it may concern letter. There was nothing provided on the bill that you forwarded to us that actually says how much of that spilled, wasted 17 million gallons of water Aqua decided to reverse a bill on. That's really important. I don't think we can reverse a receivable that's due the authority without some evidence. And we haven't gotten any evidence. We've gotten hearsay and maybe a little bit more refinement in cash not collected.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean anything to us. And a 17 million gallon spill and leak is something that I would think Aqua has some accurate records on.
Okay.
That's the only way that we can, in fairness, that's the only right way that we can actually reverse an accounts receivable and recredit the customer. And I don't know if it's a customer problem or an Aqua problem. But we keep getting stuff and it's going right and left and right and left. We just need the data.
We believe that there's some means of obtaining that data at this stage.
I can't believe 17 million gallons of leak didn't catch somebody's attention someplace.
Okay, so we're not taking any action on that item.
Okay.
All right, at this stage, we will move on to public comment on any non-agenda items. Any member of the public? Please state your name and your address, or if you're here on behalf of a property owner, please let us know who that property owner is and their address, please.
Good evening. I'm Wyatt.
Mr. Wyatt, I just want to make sure that the mic is on green. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Good evening. I apologize for that. And thanks for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. My name is Tom Wyatt. I'm a partner at a law firm called Obermeyer, and I represent the 5 Henderson buildings over at Campus Boulevard. and I'm here to summarize some of our concerns.
And just to interrupt, I apologize. but
No.
The name of the owner,
Henderson Group?
Henderson Group, owns 5 of the buildings.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. And so I'm here to just walk through some of our concerns about some recent bills and the calculation of those bills. And I want to put it in context because, you know, we recognize that there's a cost associated with converting from septic to public. However, at the time in 2019, the way that the calculation was to take place and the amount it would be was significantly different from what was communicated to us most recently in the past few months. And so the Henderson Group, just to put it in context, their properties over on Campus Boulevard are not new construction. It's not a situation where there's no water usage data. It's not as if there's no information about how the floor plans lay out. And there's also significant years worth and pre-pandemic years worth of information about usage and employee numbers. So, you know, we feel like there was a lot to go on. And we provided that information and we collected that data and budgeted for the impact of this based upon what was communicated to us several years ago. And in fact, the expectations set by the authority in May 2009 regarding how the fee would be calculated, you know, led to us going along and accepting and not protesting this project, recognizing that moving to public is a benefit. In reliance on those expectations, you know, we budgeted, as I said, to ensure that we were ready for the conversion payment. But also, we're always constantly in the process of budgeting to make sure that the maintenance at our properties and the capital of our properties is up to snuff, because of course, we're all in the same boat of wanting to encourage business growth and encourage business moving and staying into this township. And so if you do the calculations off of what we did versus what we received most recently, the impact is staggering. And I'll get into that a little more. And we simply don't have the budget for it. And so something else is going to have to give and tenants could get hurt. So the May 2019 process you laid out was logical and equitable, and we went along with it. It aligns with your 537 plan, which we've studied. It aligns with relevant DEP regulations, which we've studied, and it aligns with the DEP's wastewater facilities manual. And so that was understandable, fair, and equitable. And interestingly, your 537 plan states that you anticipated 26,000 gallons of flow at Campus Boulevard. And we do the math, and I'm a lawyer, so you'll forgive me, but you do the math, you get to about 115 EDUs.
They're prepared for that now. That's one thing I emphasize every meeting.
Yes, so someone will check me, but it's close. However, you know, we have extensive data over the years regarding number of employees and water usage, as I said, and thus using the process from 2009 and even using pre-pandemic numbers and even rounding up and being fair about the number of employees in the building and not trying to project forward, because we do believe our vacancy rate is going to be lower and perhaps trend lower. We didn't use that data in our calculations. But using that, you know, we figured that we had a total across our 5 properties of about 27 EDUs, and we budgeted for less than $200,000, and we can share that math with you, but it should be pretty apparent if you use your 2019 email and use the data that we've collected. And this is, you know, that's nothing to sneeze at, but if you look at the September 22 calculations for 14 campus alone, for one of our addresses at 14 Campus Boulevard alone, this calculation on square footage results in us purportedly being charged for 28 EDUs, which is $195,000. So we're talking about one building eating up our entire budget for what we thought all of the properties would be using. And if you just did math across the entire campus, you come up with about 8 EDUs per building to get to 115. And I can't imagine that the flow you calculated at 26,000 is more today. But nevertheless, we're accepting your numbers from the old days. And so if you just if you used the math that you supplied that resulted in the 28 EDUs for one of our properties, you roll that up for just R5, it would be 103 EDUs that we would be responsible for out of a total calculated, your calculations of 115. We think this is, staggeringly unfair and inequitable. And I think it defies the expectations that the authority set with us. And I think the most troubling thing is it's a surprise material increase to the business owners here. And redirecting and figuring out how to make sure that our tenants are getting the services and the capital that they need in the face of this extraordinary expense is giving us extreme pause. And we're very disappointed. We'd like to be able to talk to you about a solution, but given the amount of dollars at stake here, we're highly motivated to solve this problem. And we're hoping that we can kick off a conversation to more equitably ensure our conversion. Those are my comments.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
And
He doesn't have to answer you, but.
yeah, no, and maybe to some of the staff as well, but and I appreciate your commentary and
Thank you. Thank you for listening
your
to me.
offer to work with us on this issue. So in aggregate, and maybe David, this is for you, in aggregate, the sum of all connection fees in theory pays for the entire 537 plan or SR3.
To some degree, not in entirety. To some degree, yes, not in entirety. At face value, if you took all of the cost to implement the Act 537 plan, the cost would be about $27 million in construction costs. Divide that out by the total number of EDUs, your capping fee would be significantly higher than the $69.50 per EDU that's being charged. And that's because some of that is being made up in the usage fee, and it's spread out to make it more palatable to the residents.
Okay. All right, so in theory, if there was some kind of discussion about a different amount of money, we'd have to spread that money out someplace else. That receivable or whatever that number is.
I mean, that's what we've been talking about, over the last year, is the fact that, we have you got a $33 million bond, and you've got, we're going to be making payments equal to about 66 million, which you're very well aware of.
Yeah.
And over the next 30 years. And so, whatever we don't collect in tap-in fees will be part of the usage rate. That's how it's going to be.
Or future tap-in fee.
Yeah,
an adjustment. And so, I appreciate the request. It potentially makes a bigger hole for us. So I'm in the spirit of understanding that we built out the township's 537 infrastructure, we got to figure out how we make it whole. So,
I mean, I think that being said, we, appreciate the position you're in. The fact that, commercial building, pre-existing, this 537 plan. We'll take all the information that you've provided, and I think you've provided all the data that you kind of summarized, right? And, we're fully aware of the cost side on our side, on the municipal authority side. So we'll take a look at it, and we will certainly.
Think if there's anything
Back to you.
that you haven't provided that you want us to look at.
what did he say?
Circulate.
Mike, what did you say?
I just said if there's anything that Tom and Henderson want us to look at that they haven't provided yet, Tom can forward it to me and I'll circulate.
Yeah, we'd appreciate that. We certainly are not, we're looking at everything. Okay,
Understand it's a complicated issue.
yes,
Thank you.
Work with you. Thank you.
we appreciate it. Is there anybody else from the public here to speak? And just state your name, your address.
My name's Scott Ramondo. I'm here to represent the ownership group at 2 Campus Boulevard. I'm not going to
Are
reiterate
you
everything.
disassociated with
I'm disassociated with Henderson Group. and This
Henderson
is a
Group,
different ownership
okay.
group,
And the address again is
to
two
Campus
Campus
Boulevard.
Boulevard. Okay,
Uh,
and your name again?
Scott Raimondo.
Right, Scott, thank you. Go ahead.
I just want to go on public record that we also disagree with the new calculations being used for the EDUs. A lot of it is the same as information that Tom's already provided, so I won't go over the specifics of it. But I just wanted to be
What, how
known,
many square feet is your building?
ours is 27,000 square feet.
And have you submitted a letter to us or any form of response to the letter that we've given you?
No, I have not received, we have not received a letter at this point.
You haven't received a letter?
there was a
indicating the
question-
tapping?
Yeah, there was a question of needing some more information from us, which we weren't sure of the reasoning behind that information. We just became aware of this at the public meeting we had here not that
So
long ago.
I might be able to help you a little bit. Steve and Dave and I met with the folks from Campus Boulevard 2-3 weeks ago, I guess. At which point Scott certainly went on record and stated his objection to calculating the tapping fee based on square footage capacity rather than occupancy. So I guess, we requested some information on square footage that these guys didn't provide timely enough to get the letter out to them.
Gotcha.
I guess one of our biggest concerns is no prior knowledge of this change in the way that it was going to be calculated. It was never publicly advertised or up for public discussion for us to know this was happening. As Tom had mentioned, everyone on Campus Boulevard had budgeted a number years ago, and we've had no prior knowledge other than the individuals getting the invoices. So we had no chance to bring up these public comments before we were kind of put on the clock, which I don't find fair or equitable, even a little bit. I mean,
You knew you had a tapping fee coming.
we knew we had a tap-in fee. We figured worst case scenario was based off of what Montgomery, excuse me if I'm mispronouncing that, and the township had told us back in 2018. We fully anticipated that, and we're willing to pay that back, in 2018. The numbers, even back in 2018, if you looked it through, were higher than what our actual usage was. They were coming in at about 1,350 gallons per day for our building. If you looked at our actual gallons per day now, we're less than 200 gallons per day in our building. And that's going to be the future for our building. So to try and charge this without notice and really without precedent. I mean, I'm not aware of any other township using the square footage calculations for existing structures. I understand for new construction where there's no historical data. But Campus Boulevard, as mentioned, was sized specifically based off the usage in your own Act 537 plan. And even then, it should have been oversized at that point because any building older than 2000, built before 2002, they should have been using a calculation of 265 gallons per day, not the 225. So it should really have been oversized on the old calculations. And now the numbers really don't have any basis or historical reference for the usage there. And again, to not have any knowledge or understand why that change was made, or for it to have been publicly discussed or up for debate, we find is unacceptable. Thank you for allowing the time.
We do meet every month, just so you know.
I understand that, but there's usually an advertisement of the meetings and the agenda, and that was never on an agenda, from what I can understand, for us
We
to have.
discuss
public
the
comment.
537 plan in every meeting. I mean, I just want to put it out there, and we have attorneys advising us. Listen, I mean, tell you the same thing I told the representative for. I mean, we're happy to have you here and happy to take all the information that you provide us, and we want to treat you well. You're our residents, so, I just don't think we've, I just don't want to sit here and be accused of not.
We're just concerned
Fine.
about a characterization.
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
because we don't think that's the case.
I'll go on record, don't thinking anything was being hidden. I just was. I'm making statements based on information I have. If that's what I was trying, and
Well,
that's,
this is the first time you're at a meeting, the first time I'm meeting you.
no, correct.
And I've been on this board for many, many years. And I've been watching the unfolding of the 537 plan and talking to a lot of residents who have been very anxious to hook up to the system. And we handled problems like this one as they come before us. And now we're handling yours. So, and we will look at the data and the information you provide. We will work with you as our residents and we will do it fairly. I mean, so we thank you for bringing.
No, and I appreciate that. And I do want to go on record. I don't think anything was being hidden. I'm not trying to suggest that or put that on record at all. I'm just trying to get historically how this all came to pass, where the numbers we were told in 2019 changed in a letter without any prior knowledge. That's all.
And Scott, I
we
mean,
requested.
I'm certainly gonna be looking at that in particular, because I don't like that which comes off as an accusation. And it doesn't shed a positive light on this board, and we are public officials. I certainly don't want to sit here as a public official and be accused of, withholding information from the public. Yes,
Should be green.
just state your name and your address, please.
My name is Abby Sakunas. That's Sacunas. I'm general counsel to GMH Associates. Our address is 10 Campus.
Anything new to add from what
So
we've heard
I will
tonight?
not reiterate what has been already mentioned.
And have you met with our council yet or spoken with them?
I have spoken with Mr. Nace. Yes. I have not spoken with Mr. Madron. No,
Okay. Have you responded to the letters that we've sent?
we responded in the sense
I
that.
have
yes,
their information.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Do you have
And I,
anything
if
in
I can,
addition
just
to
real
that?
quick,
Okay.
I want to and I think we've said this before, but yes, there was a timeline. We have put that timeline on hold and I don't think the board's going back against that tonight. So, until we get a resolve, we're not pursuing anything until we get a resolve, and then we'll give you the time, a fair time to move forward at that point. So that the concern of the time, we tried to take off the table because we want to get to a place that makes sense.
I appreciate that, Mr. Neeson. We did discuss that, so I
Yeah.
appreciate that being on the record. Thank you very much. The only thing I would add, in addition to what the folks already have said for your consideration, just to sort of frame this in the sense of the impact, right? So the numbers that the people that have these buildings on Campus Boulevard, numbers that they received in 2019, at least for us, and we're talking just pre-pandemic levels, the EDUs and the budgeted amounts that we made based on that information, based on EDUs, was based on usage. The difference between what we're talking about based on square footage versus, forgive me, I'm getting over a cold, versus actual usage. We're talking about actual usage is about 40% of how the township is actually calculated. So, Mr. Wyde spoke earlier about the impact to the Hendersons. The impact to us is, the difference between a budgeted $48,000 to $125,000. That's the difference that we're talking about here. And just so you understand the impact of the distinction between actual usage and square footage. So
And do we have all of their, Steve, do we have all of the notices that went out to them that, with these 2018, 2019? Like they're
I don't think-
claiming that they got
I-
information.
So,
Mike, go
my
ahead.
understanding is that, and maybe these guys will tell me I'm misunderstanding everything. It wouldn't be the first time since I've been sitting here, but, 2018, they didn't receive individual numbers for each building. Rather, there was an email from Dave that said how, things would be calculated. And then I think the numbers that everybody's giving you are numbers that they came up using that calculation and their, individual, occupancies.
I'm sorry.
Sure.
There was Steve, so, but I'm Dave, I'm Valerie, Sarmento from the Henderson Group.
Okay,
And we invited Mr. Neese and Dave Porter to an association meeting where all the owners were present. Because we wanted to understand how the septic to sewer conversion would be.
and that was
And-
back in,
2019.
okay, gotcha.
So then we asked,
And
They
I'm
sent us
sorry,
a-
but David was there, Dave Porter, as
Dave
well
Porter,
as Steve Neese.
Steve Neese
Okay,
and
thank you.
the Campus Boulevard Association members.
Mhm.
So then we got an email the day after the meeting, thank you for coming to the meeting, having us at the meeting. Here's how, if you have water usage, it's going to be billed. The calculation was there. And so all of us, because we did have history, used those numbers. And we provided them to Mr. Neese. We gave a couple years worth pre-pandemic. And so when we came up with our numbers, we budgeted roughly $190,000. And then when we do it off the square footage, we only received 2 letters out of the 5 so far because of the split, I guess, the hump in the middle of the road. But when we used our square footage for all of them, it's about $700,000. I don't know where the extra $500,000 can come from. It's concerning. And even we went back and we looked at our tenant breakfast events and ice cream events because they're the most populated. All right, if we had this many employees there, just trying to come up with something fair and equitable to everyone. And that's why when Abby said, it's like we budgeted 40% of the 100% that we're getting letters on. So it's concerning. And we need to have capital available to try to lure more tenants. A lot of our buildings are 50%. We're facing a building that's going to be 100% vacant January 31st. It's 70,000 square feet. So we need money, the capital to invest back in the property, to bring tenants to the property, to be in the township, to go to the restaurants and use the different services. And we're not saying, we don't want to give you money. We want to pay you, but just, we want to come to some understanding water usage versus square footage and where we can compromise somewhere that it's equitable to everyone. So that's basically the background. And we did supply Mr. Neese with all our water bills, copies of the email and our calculations. So hopefully that will just help all of us come to the table for a resolution.
We appreciate it. Anybody else on the Campus Boulevard? Anybody else on any other issue? Thank you.
Already green. I'm Erica O'Reilly. I own the property at 4252 Florida Ave. I've told you guys a little bit about my house, but my house was built in 2018. And at that time, our home builder was encouraged, in anticipation of the connection, to put in a holding tank. So we have a 1,000-gallon holding tank on our property that we have to have pumped every month. It's incredibly expensive and very anxiety provoking. We're eating on paper plates right now and not flushing our toilets and showering at the gym. Like, it's awful. I came a couple of months ago and I think was told that, like, conservatively, the litigation issues would be kind of done with by November. And I'm hoping for some great news.
Well, I could give you some good news, I think. I don't know, if great news, but so the litigation was on appeal. It was argued 2 weeks ago. So, we're optimistic that they're going to sort of fast track a decision. So there's that. The other piece of it is that we need some land use, actually zoning relief from the township. We're building in slopes that are a little bit steep, and because of environmental concerns, you have to go before the Township Board of Supervisors in order to get permission to do that construction. And we're doing that on Monday. So we're hopeful that they'll give us a decision pretty quickly. So
is
it's
there,
not great news like, hey, it's done and we'll be building tomorrow, but it's these we think are the last 2 steps. We don't think that that the Supreme Court is going to listen to this case, even if they petition them to do so. We also think we have a right to sort of start construction on that property now. On the litigation side, the last piece of the puzzle is this conditional use side. Now, that's an appealable decision. So if these folks appeal it, we'll have to talk to the court about letting us proceed in light of the appeal. So, you know, I'm optimistic that by the end of the year, we'll have an answer. Still pretty good, right? It's not great, but it's you know, it's not like you don't have to use your holding tank right now, but you know, hopefully pretty soon.
Okay. Is like, are we allowed to ask about the litigation? What's the, so essentially I call the township all the time. I think I've probably talked to poor Steve back there many times. And it just seems like there's like, these are the last two issues. Like there's nothing.
I mean, you know, I'm not as good a lawyer as Tom, so, you know, but I do my best, and that, in my eyes, these are the last two issues.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. So last time I was given November, now like maybe end of December.
and we're predicting other people's behavior a little bit, so it's not an exact science. But that's.
If all goes well, it'll be,
All goes well, it'll be by the end of the year, I think.
yeah, by the end.
Because November 28th, we'll have our hearing before the Board of Supervisors. And the appeal period will end 30 days after that. So if all goes splendidly, then we'll know by the end of the year that they didn't appeal. And you know, we'll probably all have a beer somewhere. If they do appeal, then we're gonna try to get to the court as quickly as possible and say either hear this or don't grant them a stay, or whatever the case may be, that we can continue with our project.
It'll be like an expedite.
And we do have, we requested an alternative route where even if the litigation sort of goes on, we're able to work around it. So, you know, we think we'll be able to at least construct the alternative route.
In like early next year,
Very early next.
very early.
Yes.
One other question, is there a way that you guys could just add an update to the meeting in this? I know we have a lot of interested parties that couldn't come from my neighborhood. Could you add in like a little snippet about our area, that Old Masters
Yeah,
area?
I think
feel
that's
like there's-
actually a really good
There's an
idea.
update on that every meeting.
Usually,
Yeah, get somebody else.
gives an update on that.
On that specific area?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, okay.
Oh, I mean, I think we could add it to the
We'll
engineer.
make sure even if nobody's here, I mean, that's probably on me, right? Because it's all litigation. at this
Yeah,
point,
so
we'll
maybe
make
we
sure I
just
get
add
that.
it,
Thank
and
you.
that way.
Just in case
with
we're not
the
able to be
minutes,
here,
Then you can read the minutes.
can update,
I
yeah.
should have said Tom and Abby, because I'm sure she's a better lawyer than Tom.
Oh, God.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, I think that is all at this time. The meeting is adjourned. I'm sorry, unless anybody else has anything to discuss for the agenda next. Okay, the meeting is adjourned.